Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today we're going to be diving into a practice mode full build guide and thoughts kind of video, theory crafting video, guide video on Chimera jungle. Now, unfortunately, we have the crest selection here and it's still bugged, so you can't actually see the selections because I did want to talk about them a little bit because we're going to be covering two builds. We're going to be covering like tanky Kai and we're going to be covering like mostly HP Bruiser Kai. So with that said, if you're going tanky Kai, I think it's perfectly acceptable to go either Saphir's Mantle or Near War Boots. I like both. Both are really good. Both are really good on Kai. Pick your poison, right? I kind of think. I'm not going to be too crazy on that one. As for Warrior Crest, if you're doing like HP Bruiser Kai, I think the best option is Icecorn Talons. So Icecorn Talons technically is like probably the more used crest on Kai, but again, if you're going the tankier build, you know you're going into the game, you look at your team comp, you look at their team comp, and you say, hey, I want to go tanky. Saphir's Mantle and Near War Boots is kind of your way to go. So, crest selection is completed. I don't know why my game is just infinitely moving me to the left. That was bizarre. All right, let's talk about builds. So, there's a lot of ways you can pull off a bruiser build guide, or like a bruiser build, especially for Chimera, and that's kind of why I wanted to do an updated build guide for Chimera, because there's new items, and I want to talk about what I think is good, what I think you have to build, and things of that nature. So first and foremost, Sky Splitter on Chimera, I think, is slowly pulling away. Like, this is a really, really strong DPS item for Chimera. Used to be something I would rush. Now it's kind of getting pushed back and back and back, and I think that, like, the notion of needing this kind of ripping damage on Chimera, it's losing its flavor. So I think we're mostly going to put this to the side, but I do want to talk about it at the top of this video to kind of say that, like, hey, look, if you want a little bit more damage early on, items 1 through 3, Sky Splitter, really items 2 and 3, I think. Sky Splitter is an option that you can take. It just doesn't really play into the rest of that HP Bruiser kind of feel. So I think that you kind of have to be, you know, a little bit understanding of that. Let's go ahead and grab ourselves some gold. First item on Chimera, if you're doing a Bruiser, like HP focus build, and even if you're doing a tank build, is Overlord. Now, for some of you console players that are new, I'm going to explain these builds, and then I'm going to talk about options, so we can talk about why the build works and what it's doing. Overlord is a small power, 25 power, 450 health, that's a lot of health, item. And it is Colossal Cleave. Basic attacks deal bonus physical damage in a small area around the target based on your maximum health. So you have cleave damage. So when you press your Q and you're spamming, you're splashing damage. So it helps with your clear. And then Bludgeon, gain 2.5% bonus health physical power. So every time you build a health item, you gain more power. And so that's where the HP Bruiser build kind of comes in, where you kind of want most of your items to have HP on them. So that way you can get a benefit from this. So Overlord, phenomenal starting item. It gives you, the Barbaric Cleaver gives you damage and clear speed. The total item gives you damage, clear speed, health, and then the scaling power for being tanky. Now, your second item is always going to be Basilisk. This item, there's a lot of Bruiser items, and we're going to talk about those. We're going to look at physical power, health, and then we're going to look at the beads as well. So we're going to mostly look in this arena right here of items when it comes to HP Bruiser builds. Basilisk is absolutely insane. 40 physical power, 350 health, so a lot of health. Again, this one has 450, this one has more power, and it has 20 ability haste, a crazy amount of haste for 3100 cost. Really, really amazing item. Corrode, deal 4 damage to an enemy hero, dealing damage to an enemy hero reduces their physical armor by 4% for 3 seconds, stacking it to 6 times. So this is armor shred. This is when you hit somebody, you're reducing their armor, effectively dealing more damage to them, and also if you're hitting someone and reducing their armor, your other allies like your AD carry is also going to be hitting them for harder. Eminence, your basic attacks against targets with 6 stacks of Corrode deals 4% of the missing health as bonus physical damage. So this is shred, this is additional spam damage, this is just very, very strong. So this is like when you're doing a Bruiser HP Kai build, these two items are back to back exactly what you're looking for. Now, third item is where things start to open up a little bit more. You can get a little bit situational if you need anti-heal, you could go Tainted Blade, but I think the thing with the tainted items is they kind of fallen out, they're more niche by items, so you don't necessarily need to go that. And what I would personally recommend is Citadel. This item is also incredibly strong. This is the item where, like, when you look at an HP Bruiser build for Kai, you need to have Overlord first, so that way you can increase your clear speed and set the stage for what the build does. You want an item like Basilisk because this brings a ton of damage, health, and ability haste. So it's like everything you could possibly need. Citadel continues that trend by bringing you everything you could possibly need with 45 physical armor, which is a nice size amount of armor, 200 health, a nice size amount of health, 35 physical power, a nice amount of physical power, and then you gain 8 physical armor for each nearby enemy hero. Well, Chimera is an all-in hero, so when you dive in, when you leap in, you're standing there, you're going to gain 8 physical armor for every hero that's around. Now, Intimidation, nearby enemy heroes have their physical armor decreased by 20%. So these two items right here, Basilisk and Citadel, are your I jump in, do more damage, have better cooldowns, have more health, and I reduce their armor and shred them. I jump in, I do more damage, have more health, have more physical armor, reduce their armor, and gain physical armor myself. So it's just these two items are incredibly strong. I think that they will probably get nerfed at some point. They have been strong for a while, and they're going to continue to be strong. This is like the core 3-item build. And there are so many good health and physical power and health items and tank items that you can throw on the back end of this, that this is where the build really opens up. With the addition of like the 11 new items that we got, it's very hard for me to 5-slot a build for you. It's very, very hard. I can do it and you can follow it, but there's so many options. The new item, Berserker Axe, I think is a phenomenal item. It's got a lot of health, a lot of armor. It gives flat, plus 3% movement speed, which is really, really great. Movement speed is super, super good. And then upon dashing or leaping with an ability, which Chimera does, your next basic attack within 3 seconds will deal bonus physical damage based on your bonus health. So again, playing on a bonus health, and slow by 50% for 0.75 seconds. Basic attacks reduce blitz cooldown by 0.5. So, and then as you basic attack, you're going to lower this cooldown. I think this is a phenomenal item on Kai if you don't need to build something else. So if you're just stomping a game, everything's going well, you have a nice front line for your team, like maybe a solid tank, I think it's a phenomenal item. You also have Mist Runner. Passing through a fog wall grants you 20% bonus movement speed for 1.5 seconds. So you have really good movement speed that you can get off of this as well. So I think that this is a phenomenal pickup. I think that Bonesaw even has a little bit of that as well, where you have small amount of power but a ton of health, and then you have every third basic attack deals bonus physical damage based on your maximum health and slows the target. I wouldn't recommend getting both because slows do not stack, so you don't want to get both of these, but you could pick up one of these, and those are like the solid HP Bruiser items that I would tell you to look for. Now we do have the new item, Boneseeker, and I'm still a little undetermined on this one, so I'm going to be doing some testing and giving my thoughts. But attack speed 30%, which Kai can use attack speed, but it's not his best stat in the world because it's good for him, but he has his Q. 300 health, 10 ability haste. Basic attacks against enemy heroes marks them for marks your target and increases your damage dealt by 2% for 4 seconds. Additional basic attacks against them stack this effect up to 10 times. Changing targets resets your stacks, and basic attacks deal 20 physical damage on hit. So you get 20 damage on hit, and you can deal up to 20% increased damage. So this is like, you dive in on somebody and you stick to them and just do damage to that one person. I do think that there's something here. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of this item yet, though. So definitely something to think about. I just wanted to bring it up since it is one of the new items. But other than that, you would look at like physical armor items that you might want to go. Like you know, if you're really getting hit by like a bunch of like a carry that's really strong, you could have Warden's Faith, which is very similar to Citadel, where Citadel reduces their armor, Warden's Faith reduces their power. So you could dive in with a ton of armor, a ton of health, and you take reduced damage from crits, and you know, you could reduce their power, so that way you can stick on them. You could go Giant's Ring, super strong new tank item where you dive in, you can reduce your ability cooldowns by getting hit, and then upon casting your ultimate you get bigger in size and you take damage mitigation. So you can Stonewall if they have a very heavy front line. You could dive in, and then whenever you get low, it'll explode and stun people nearby you. You could go Frosted Lure, where you dive in and after 4 seconds you pulse and do damage and then shield yourself based on your maximum health and slow them. So again, you wouldn't want to stack a slow item, so you wouldn't want to go Frosted Lure and the other like Bruiser items that have slows, but potential slow item. So this is where the game really opens up, and you know, I think items 4 and 5 have to be kind of just game state dependent. So I would be much more comfortable giving you like a 3-slot item build for someone like Chimera that has a lot of options. All right, let's talk about Tanky Kai. Tanky Kai is a little bit different. Again, just pretend like the Warrior Crest is a tank crest. If you know that you're going to go Tank Kai, you're probably not going to be focused on Basilisk for actually doing damage. Now, I do think that Tank Kai is a little bit more niche than your HP Bruiser Kai, because HP Bruiser Kai is more or less the way he's supposed to be played, whereas Tank Kai is like if your team comp really calls for it. Again, though, it's going to be a lot of the same things. First and foremost, I think for a Tanky Kai, I think Citadel is a phenomenal item. You're already going Overlord to kind of give yourself some health and power because you don't want Tanky Kai to not do any damage. So you're going to start off with Overlord. I think Citadel as a 3rd-slot item is really, really great. I think you could go on ahead and instantly rush a Giant's Ring. I think that this is a really solid option. You probably wouldn't want to go Fire Blossom on...
Enemy tower.
You don't want to go Fire Blossom on Kai because you don't really need the damage. You don't need it early for the clear speed. So I think going something like Overlord will kind of cover that slot. So you don't really want to go anything like Fire Blossom like you would see on, like, say, a Rampage or like a Steel or something like that. But going Giant's Ring, this is going to give you, this is a lot of armor here. And actually, I didn't even touch on magic armor items, which I think you definitely want to have if you're a bruiser, if you need it, or a tank, you definitely need it. Magic armor items that are phenomenal right now are like Unbroken Will, really, really strong item. This is just, your kind of anti-CC. If they hit you, it's going to heal you. It's going to make sure that you're feeling pretty good about it yourself whenever you get hit. You have the option to heal yourself up. Really, really strong option. Crystalline Cuirass, this is, I feel like an item I don't build as much as I probably could or like to usually. But yeah, max armor, max health, 350 health, 60 armor, 10 haste, really solid stats. Receiving magical damage grants a stack of Celestite for 5 seconds, stacking up to 6 times. Stacks can only be gained once every 0.5 seconds. Gain 5 magical armor per stack of Celestite, and maximum stacks gain 15% additional movement speed. So, it's the kind of run them down tank item. Really, really solid. And Void Helm, not the best, not the worst tank item on Chimera. This is going to increase your healing. So 10% increased healing, a lot of health, a lot of armor, haste, and then immobilizing a hero restores 3% of your maximum health over 4 seconds. That pretty much would only work on your ult. So something to think about. Probably not the best item, but not the worst. And, that's about how you would probably build Tank Kai, is something like this. Like this 4-slot item slot, or 4-slot build is going to feel really, really good on Chimera. And then when it comes to anti-healing, I think it's very, very niche now. Like whereas before in the past, we would pretty much always build a Tainted Guard. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I do want to talk about it in this video so that way if they have like a Crunch and a Countess and a Sevarog, if they have a Narbash for lots of healing, like Tainted Guard is probably a solid item. A Chimera, but I do think that it's not necessarily as strong as it used to be because there are so many items that have really, really phenomenal passives, and in part why I hope that this game gives us a 6-item slot. Frosted Lure, same thing. You could build this one to kind of round your build out with a little bit more armor. So you could have like 2 or 3 armor items and then like a magic armor item, or you could go 2 armor items, 2 magic armor items, just depending on how the enemy team comp looks and how their team is developing. But yeah, when hit by a basic attack, reduce the source's healing by 40% and apply a bleed to them for 3 seconds, which deals magic damage based on your physical armor. So this does a little bit of damage to them, so it's a nice, got a little bit of damage kickback on them. And even new Elefrost is like something you could play around with. I'm not sold that this is a very great item, but new Elefrost or reworked Elefrost, after using an ability, your next basic attack within 4 seconds deals bonus magical damage on hit around the target based on your bonus health and total physical power, and slows by 20% for 0.5 seconds. I actually think that this item is kind of like, in my mind, it's only good on like a tanky version of Greystone with Overlord and like a tanky version of Chimera with Overlord, because it's like based on your bonus health and your total physical power, so you're kind of getting a little bit of both out of that, and slows. So could be something there. I'm not really sold on Elefrost. I think it's not a very great item, but same thing with Warden's Faith. If you need solid tank items, you get the point. Really, really solid tank items. Frostguard, if they have a bunch of auto attackers, they have like a Sereth carry or a Grux and a carry. Grux, Sereth, and a carry. Frostguard's probably really, really good to reduce their attack speed. And yeah, so that's my thoughts, friends. I think core 3 item build is something that you're gonna look like with this for Tanky Kai. And yeah, hopefully this has been informative and gives you a bit of a kicking off point for how to build Chimera. Friends, thank you so much for watching. I feel like this was a lot of information that I just kind of spit out at you as fast as I could, so the video wasn't going to be 30 minutes long, and we really just sat here and looked at the item shop. But I think this is a good kicking off point for any new junglers, any new Chimera players, or people that are jumping into the game, getting back into Chimera, because it is console season, right? It's console season. So friends, new Chimera players, the only mastery skin I have is Chimera. Get out there, enjoy the game, drop a like on the video, subscribe for future Predecessor jungle content. As always, be sure to be kind of one, tell someone you love them, and I'll see you in the next video.